possess the power of Thor.
Who are you?
You'll see me soon enough.
God, I hope you're not crazy.
He's a badass. The movie, not so much. Welcome to Time About the Movies, where today we are taking a look at the 4 films of May 6, 2011. The technical start of the summer movie season, and not last week where Universal said, well, fuck you, we're going to release the next Fast and Furious movie ahead of you and take your ass out. And, did end up doing a whole lot better than Thor did, which Thor didn't do bad business overall, but still, it's a movie that I would go as far as to say is not one of the MCU's better films in general, but, in the story of Thor, you have Chris Hemsworth playing the title character, who's the son of Odin, played by Anthony Hopkins. He's banished from his home in Asgard to Earth by falling into the sky into a New Mexico town. And while on Earth, he comes across a team of scientists played by Natalie Portman, Kat Dennings, and Stellan Skarsgård, who try to figure out where he comes from. So, fish out of water story, basically E.T. except replace an alien with a mystical god god coming into our world, pretty much. Kind of like it's basically a better version of Masters of the Universe if you want to go down that rabbit hole. But meanwhile, Thor's brother Loki, played by Tom Hiddleston, takes over for the Alien King and plans to work with the evil Frost Giants to take over Asgard. Yeah, this is a movie where it's nowhere near as good as what Marvel had done up to that point with the 2 Iron Man movies and Captain America. This is definitely the weakest of the first films of the MCU. Maybe one of the weakest films of the MCU overall. At the same time, though, there are good things about it. Kenneth Branagh, I think, does a pretty good job bringing his directing abilities into this movie. Although I will say there are a lot of shots where the camera's, tilted. It'd be like watching my review like this. That's how a lot of the shots in this movie are like. And it just takes you back to bad memories of Battlefield Earth. Would this review be much more interesting if my face was like this the whole time? Or maybe I was looking this way? No. This would get pretty annoying quickly. See? Can you see how annoying this is going to get? Okay, I'm going to stop right now, but yeah, stuff like that is just when you're bringing in cinematography aspects from Battlefield Earth, of all things, yeah, of course my concerns are going to be on this, but other than that, though, there are stuff in here that does work. I like the fact that he does combine period and modern-day lifestyles into one film and makes it work together for the most part. The visuals overall are really good. I like the way that Asgard looks. The 3D overall was pretty good. And keep in mind, this is a post-production 3D film. And, once again, I don't get to use my post-production 3D hell graphic. Just pretend like there's some kind of thunder there. But, yeah. Even for a post-production conversion of 3D, this is actually not that bad. I think I think 2010 was basically a lesson of how not to do post-production 3D. And everyone else just said, duly noted, we will not do that again, and we're not going to get a whole lot of those anymore, so I might have to retire that too. That gag of poor boat. That gag I have, so stay tuned for that. But back to this movie. Like I said, Chris Hemsworth really is the best thing about this movie. I think he really does have the look of Thor, and for a guy that nobody really knew who he was back then, most people only saw him in the beginning of Star Trek. He's Captain Kirk's father in that movie in the beginning of the film, and we never see him again after that. And everyone's just going this is the guy that's going to play him, really? And lo and behold, yeah, he makes it work. I mean, he is the one thing that is the glue that holds this together. The other bit being, the rest of the cast, including Natalie Portman, Kat Dennings, and Stellan Skarsgård, and especially Tom Hiddleston as Loki. And of course, he's gone from being the evil villain to becoming somewhat of a good guy with the Loki series, and so on and so forth. I mean, that's pretty much what he is. Yeah. The biggest problems with the movie, the cinematography, yes, and also the story moves way too slow. And the film has way too many slow points in between the action sequences that really get boring pretty quickly. It's not a film killer, but it needed to be put together better. I mean, this is a film that really is one of those things where it's just this is something where, you're taking this way too goddamn slow. As I mentioned before, the real killer is those Dutch angle shots. They almost ruin the movie because it feels pointless as a story, especially since they're trying to create a new franchise for this character. Again, doing it like this does not make your movie that much more interesting when, or this way, when you have to look up against the bad guys and all that. That's not a way to sell your film through visual storytelling. That's just trying to be edgy and cool for the young kids out there, and it just doesn't work. So yeah, like I said, this doesn't rate anywhere near as good as some of the other MCU movies. This is definitely one of those ones that, even after all these years, is still one of the weakest of the MCU movies. And I would say it is the worst one, but we haven't gotten to the second one yet. But trust me, the second one is much worse. The second one is definitely the worst of the two movies, but all in good time. We'll get to that in 2013. But as far as the first Thor goes, it's fine. The real thing you're taking away from it is that, hey, Chris Hemsworth's kind of a badass as Thor. Loki's kind of a fun villain as played by Tom Hiddleston. I just wish there was better story development and less of the Dutch angle shots. That's what we didn't need in this movie. So take that for what you will. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to not only one of the biggest surprises of the weekend, maybe one of the biggest surprises of all time, honestly. At least for the year, in a year where it has been so wrought with so many bad movies. Who would have guessed that a movie like Jumping the Broom would be one of the year's standout films?
We don't love each other because Jason and I love each other.
This Friday, grab your girls.
We should come.
I'm a hermaphrodite.
I don't care what your religion is.
And get ready
I'm the bride's cousin.
Help me, Jesus. That boy is fine.
for a weekend you'll never forget.
It's Bernie.
Oh, I know you ain't got your private parts out around all this good food, do you?
Jumping the Broom.
You know you're gonna get in some trouble. Shut up. Look at your shirt.
Rated PG-13.
Yeah, every once in a while you get that one little romantic comedy that kind of comes out of nowhere. No one's expecting it to be all that good. And then all of a sudden, it turns out to be a really damn good movie. And especially in a year that we've been in where we've had so many bad movies, one after another, and bad comedies too, especially some pretty bad romantic comedies. The Dilemma comes to mind. This one in particular was one of those ones where it's just like, pretty good. Really, really good. In fact, not just really good, surprisingly really good. I absolutely adored this movie. It really is a simple premise when you really look at it. The story is that you have two African-American families who live on opposite sides of the social circle and have to get together for marriage in the town of Chilmark on the island of Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts. The Taylors are a downtown working-class family with matriarch Pam Taylor, played by Loretta Devine, who is very upset with his son Jason, played by Laz Alonso, announcing that he is getting married to Sabrina Watson, played by Paula Patton, at the last minute. Sabrina, who belongs to the Watsons, an uptown rich family led by Claudine Watson, played by Angela Bassett, are just as upset as Pam when her daughter Sabrina announces the marriage at the last minute. Both matriarchs are upset also because they barely know each other's family. And, of course, you can see what's going to happen. It's going to be another one of these, father of the bride or family wedding type of comedies where, the two families aren't going to get along at first, and you think that they're never going to get along, period. And then just like at the end, it just all comes together. And this time around, you got the power of the Lord here. Or the power of T.D. Jakes, who uses the power of the Lord. I said last time around this is based off a T.D. Jakes story. It's not based off a story, but he is one of the producers on the movie. So he is a big part of the film, and he even does have a cameo in here towards the end of the movie. So take that for what you will. But most romantic comedies these days kind of follow the same format. Like I said before, they can usually get away with it if they put some spins to it. And the story does work here. The relationship between the two leads, Alonso and Patton, is very believable. And Jumping the Broom gets 2 out of those 3 right, and it's fairly enjoyable about that. I thought these two had a lot of good chemistry together. Their performances overall are great. There was not one person in the cast I didn't like. I thought everybody did the best job they could. The only one I would say was probably maybe underused was Julie Bowen from Modern Family. And we've seen her do a lot of good stuff. This, Ed, Happy Gilmore. I thought she was very misused in the film. She wasn't really given a whole lot to do in this film. She was just kind of there to be, the stock white character that, the white people that go into this movie, are just like, I can relate to this character for just kind of being in the background. And I mean, that's really all she's there for, pretty much. What I did like about the movie is that it did put its twist on things you think would happen, but then another thing happens. It's very smart and doesn't push to the point that makes you hate it. I mean, we're about to talk about another romantic comedy that is much, much worse than this after I get done with this particular movie, but I think the main flaw of it is the story, and it is predictable as you can get. You can tell what's coming from the inevitable signs of something bad about to happen, to the big misunderstanding, to the point where the couples have to break up and then get back together again, this time with the power of T.D. Jakes, because you know what, T.D. Jakes looked at this and said, I can make a movie better than Tyler Perry did, and in one movie he did just that with this film. But other than the predictable story, it is a fairly enjoyable movie. I didn't like it as much as, say, Last Holiday or Just Right or even Ghost of Girlfriend's Past, but my nose is itching. I'm trying to do this, but the movie overall is a very entertaining movie. You get to see a great actress in Paula Patton getting a chance to shine in a leading role. She definitely does make it count, and yeah, I would have liked to see her make it as a movie star, and with her appearing in Mission Impossible 4 at the end of the year, where I'll tell you what, that's one of those, we'll get to that film later on, but, yeah, not only is she great in that movie, but, God, she looks incredibly sexy in that film. I'll touch more on that at the end of the year when we get to Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, but I thought this was going to be the thing that was going to push her to superstardom. It sadly wasn't, but at the same time, it's still a really good movie. It's a film that works very well because of the great actors involved, because it does get those funny moments here and there. It's a good comedy. It's a really solid, well-made comedy. Now let's go to the complete opposite end of the spectrum with a movie that is almost very similar to Jumping the Broom, except even worse. And that is, of course, Something Borrowed.
This is me, Rachel. This is my friend Dex, the man of my dreams. And this is my best friend Darcy, taking him away from me.
How come you never told me how you felt?
It's too late.
You want your opportunity, take it.
Something Borrowed. Rated PG-13.
Yeah, this is one of those few times where I would tell you, for the love of God, do not trust Jim Halpert in this one. Like, this is one of the few times I would say, stay the fuck away from John Krasinski's advice in this movie, because let me tell you something, people. That trailer doesn't make it look like this movie is all that bad, but trust me when I tell you, this is one of those romantic comedies where it doesn't look bad on paper, but once you delve into the movie and realize what the hell they're doing, you realize that you're in for a horrible, horrifying mess of a film. So in the movie, you have Jennifer Goodwin, who plays Rachel, who's a lawyer. She was in law school and fell for another student named Dex, played by Colin Egglesfield, who comes from an affluent family, but she was too shy to say anything. When Dex meets her best friend Darcy, played by Kate Hudson, who sometimes treats her like dirt, and by sometimes I mean all the goddamn time in this movie. What the hell was that? Oh, the goddamn time. It's just like, I'm like somebody from the South. It's like, oh, the goddamn time. I'll tell you what, literally, she treats her like shit all throughout this movie. Darcy makes moves on Dex and gets him. Eventually, they get engaged, and Darcy asks Rachel to be her maid of honor. However, Rachel still has feelings for Dex and still can't say anything. Well, guess what, lady? You blew that shot. It's over in real life, but not in this movie. No. We're on Bride Wars level of stupidity in this. This isn't quite as bad as Bride Wars, but it's pretty damn close. Darcy throws her a birthday party, and Dex is there. When she and Dex are alone, she blurts out that she had a thing for him in college, which surprised him. And after drinking a little, they spend the night together. They try to forget the whole thing and agree that it means nothing. Ethan, played by John Krasinski, Rachel's close friend, tells her that she'll spend her entire life regretting that if she does nothing. One problem here in this whole situation is that later on in the movie, it's revealed that Dex is actually cheating with her, Rachel is ecstatic until Darcy arrives to talk to her at some point, and Dex hides, overhearing her confessing that she had been cheating with Marcus, while Dex was cheating with Rachel. And she is now pregnant with Marcus's child and says they are happy. That is just one of the biggest what the fuck are you guys doing situations this movie brings you. That's just one element of this unpleasant, ungodly mess of a movie. And this isn't written by hacks either. The writer of this is Jenny Snyder Urman, who would later give us Jane the Virgin, that great show on the CW with Gina Rodriguez. This is directed by Luke Greenfield. Luke Greenfield's a decent director. He did The Girl Next Door, which I really enjoyed. He also did The Animal, one of the very few decent Rob Schneider comedies. I wouldn't say great, but it's certainly a lot better than anything from Deuce Bigalow. And it's hard to believe that The Girl Next Door is actually his highlight, because I'm looking at his other movies, Let's Be Cops, Hap Brothers. Yeah. This was the beginning of the downfall. And this movie is such a mess because you hate every single person in this movie. You hate Kate Hudson. You hate John Krasinski because he's given her friend Bad Advice, you hate Jennifer Goodwin because she's so shy and so naive that she just lets the shit happen and, let the chaos happen because she needs to be the main character of this movie that she's in. Like, literally, it's a main character syndrome situation, is what I'm trying to say, because this whole thing could have easily been prevented if she had just said something early on to this guy that, hey, I got a thing for you. At some point, you gotta let that go, man. Like, it's just like, after a certain amount of time, it's just time to move on. And eventually, if the universe wants you two to get together, it will come together, but not in the way that this stupid movie does. This whole movie really is one of the dumbest things ever. You hate every single person here because they all keep making decisions in here that are just such... I want to be a dickhead today. I want to be a complete asshole today. That is literally the purpose of this entire movie. The entire purpose of this movie is to watch these people that you do not like just keep making stupid decisions for no other reason, because we need to fill out this runtime, because heaven forbid if we can't entertain you for 2 hours. This thing is literally 2 hours of you watching the most detestable people in your entire life just completely act like fucking idiots. Every single person in this movie is a fucking idiot. And I hate to say this because I like a lot of these actors that are involved in here. I like Kate Hudson. I like Jennifer Goodwin. I like John Krasinski. But in this movie, they are all acting like fucking morons and dickheads. You do not like a single person in this movie because everyone is making stupid decisions for no other reason except the fact that they're in a script. And we have to do it because, heaven forbid, if we actually tell you a real-life story here, because we need to appeal to the women that are clearly never going to pay attention to this movie, because it's another one of those films where this is made for the Sex of the City 80s for Brady crowd, where, they're going to talk more about them gabbing in their dresses and their wine and all that, and then when they get home to their husbands or boyfriends, it's just like, how was the movie? And she'll be like, wait, did I see a movie? That's what this movie is. This is the complete opposite of a movie like Jumping the Broom. Jumping the Broom took a story that's been done to death before and could have had characters that were just as detestable as these people here, but you like those characters. You like them because the writer of that movie knew that, you got to have a sense of realism in here mixed in with the romantic comedy tropes. You could have this situation done here if you combined it with real-life elements and make it work. This film, however, doesn't do that, and it fails on every single possible level. This is right up there with some of the worst romantic comedies I've ever seen in my entire life, and I hate the fact that I had to watch this movie, because I spent the longest time never watching it, because it just looked terrible from the get-go, but I had to get it ready for watch this, and had to get it ready to watch this. Let me start over again. I had to watch it so I can get ready to talk about it here, and I regret that decision almost immediately after I watched it because, yeah, it's bad. It's really, really, really bad. So, yeah, something borrowed. Why don't you go borrow an actual good script for once? Yeah. I've lost my train of thought here. Let's just go ahead and get to I'm tired, man. I mean, this is, as you can see, yeah, it's Steel City Con weekend, and, yeah. This is usually a strenuous time, a fun time overall, because, you get to make money off of selling stuff that you've had for a while now, but, like, yeah, situations like this weekend takes a lot out of you, so that's why I'm kind of a little bit, like, what do I want to say here? Not as concentrated as I usually am here because of getting these out there, and also working all day long at the thing, but, it is what it is, and hey, I get to make money at the end of it, so that's always the fun of it overall. And you get to have a good time overall. By the way, there will be the Steel City Con video coming up later this weekend, so if you're wondering why there's no part 1 out there today, wait till Sunday for the whole thing. But anyway, enough about Steel City Con. Let's get to our last movie here, and it is probably the most profound movie of the entire weekend, and you would not expect it with a movie starring Mel Gibson as a man who's having a divorced man who's having an existential crisis, and his only way to help him is through a beaver puppet.
Is Dad gone?
He's not gone, honey. We just agreed that it's better if we don't live together anymore.
I'm glad you kicked her out. What a loser.
This is the story of Walter Black, a hopelessly depressed individual. The successful and loving family man he used to be has gone missing. And no matter what he's tried, Walter can't seem to bring him back.
What's that? It's a brain. Mom says yours got broken.
So you can see that Walter is a man who's lost all hope. But he's about to find his voice.
Bloody hell. Look here. I'm sick. Do you want to get better? Who are you? I'm the believer, Walter. And I'm here to save your dead life.
That right there is actually some of the most deep, profound dialogue that you will ever find in a movie that stars Mel Gibson, with him talking with a beaver puppet. I mean, this is a movie that is so bizarre. But you know what? Sometimes the most bizarre things ever can turn out some of the most enjoyable movies I've seen in a while. And The Beaver is definitely one of those movies that is a film that is so bizarre, so insane, and yet it's a friggin' masterpiece, honestly. It's the first time Mel Gibson and Jodie Foster have worked together on a film since Maverick, which was a great movie back in the 90s. And Mel Gibson stars as Walter Black, a depressed executive who hits rock bottom when his wife Jodie Foster kicks him out of the house. At his lowest point, he begins to use the beaver hand puppet to communicate with people and overcome his issues. And, this is a movie that also features some rising stars like Anton Yelchin and Jennifer Lawrence, who plays the love interest to Anton Yelchin's character. You also have Cherry Jones from 24. And, hey, you thought Mel Gibson was the most toxic person in here? Matt Lauer is also playing himself in this movie. So, yeah, we're covering all the boards in this particular film. I mean, this is a movie that is so weird and so bizarre, and yet it is actually one of the most engaging movies I've ever seen, and it really works because Mel Gibson gives it his all in this movie. This is probably one of my favorite Mel Gibson performances, if not my favorite one, because it's a more restrained performance by Gibson. It's not him yelling out insanity overall. It's not him doing the typical action hero tropes. It's him playing a straightforward character, and it works very well to him. And you buy into his relationship with this beaver puppet and the fact that it is helping him get through this terrible situation that he's dealing with. And it works. It works really well. It's a surprisingly effective movie, a surprisingly enjoyable film that just works because Gibson is giving it his all and is making it work in here. Yeah, Mel Gibson can be a crazy-ass motherfucker, and in real life, he's just as much of a terrible person as somebody like Kevin Spacey. But you know what? Just like Kevin Spacey, his film roles do the talking for him in terms of what this guy's purpose on Earth was. The guy is a great actor, and just like Kevin Spacey, Mel Gibson can be a pretty great actor, and you can see it in this movie. This is probably more daring than something like a Braveheart. Like, I would say that this is more daring than something like Braveheart, or something like these movies where he put a lot of effort into it, not just with the direction, but also the starring in it. And something like this is probably more daring than something like Passion of the Christ or Apocalypto, because this is just so out of his norm. And I'm putting all the praise on him, but Jodie Foster too. You don't really think about Jodie Foster as this great director, but she's made a lot of really good movies, films that were actually pretty solid. Her worst film as a director was Little Man Tate, and even then, it wasn't a bad movie just because it was a bad film. It was just a bad film because it's just clearly Oscar bait. But then she follows it up with Home for the Holidays, which is a surprisingly really good film that is one of the best Thanksgiving movies you'll ever see. And then her next movie with Julia Roberts and George Clooney, Money Monster, is friggin' amazing. Like, Jodie Foster has been a really good director that doesn't get the attention as a director because everyone thinks of her as this great actress, which she is. And again, she gives a great performance in here. Anton Yelchin and Jennifer Lawrence are great in this movie. You can see why these two work off each other so well. And Anton Yelchin, once again, in his sadly brief career, showed that he had a lot of potential to become this next great actor had he not passed away in 2016 like he did. But, I mean, this movie doesn't get the attention I think it deserves, but it's really a great movie. It is definitely a film that was one of those films that kind of came out, it came and went. It was largely forgotten because of the stuff behind the scenes with Gibson, but it's a film that is something that I think needs to be seen. If you want to see Mel Gibson at his absolute best, this is definitely the movie to check out. This is a film that is so damn good. It's so well done. It's just an amazing film. Seek this one out if you can find it. The Beaver, I can't recommend this enough. Terrific, terrific film. I really enjoyed the hell out of it. Definitely check it out, The Beaver.
You've gotten even prettier.
Maybe because you're getting it, my killer.
Whoa! I don't want to think about my brother's junk.
From the producer of Superbad,
Bring some bail, Mom, because Mama's gonna watch.
this May,
See? Not drunk.
So you're just a terrible sober driver?
you're invited
This wedding is going to be perfect.
Dead shit.
Dead serious.
to a very special engagement.
What's that?
Somebody found a souvenir.
Bridesmaids.
Take it. What? Yep, double jointed.
Rated R. In theaters May 13th.
And welcome to Time About the Movies. Today we are taking a look at the 3 films of May 13, 2011, and we begin with the biggest new release of the weekend, which was, of course, Bridesmaids. You have Annie and Lillian, played by Kristen Wiig and Maya Rudolph, who have been best friends since childhood, so when Lillian gets engaged, she asks Annie to be her maid of honor. She also selects bridesmaids. Helen Harris, played by Rose Byrne, who's the wife of Lillian's fiance's boss, is trying to take over the planning of the wedding and wants us to plan Annie as Lily's best friend. Becca, played by Ellie Kemper from The Office, a newlywed who loves marriage and pits Annie, her unmarried state. Megan, played by Melissa McCarthy, of course, coming on Mike and Molly at the time, like becoming the big thing on that show, even though she had been on Gilmore Girls before that, and also Samantha Who. She's the sister of the groom, who's very aggressive in her pursuit of men and adventure. And Rita, played by Wendy McClendon-Covey, pre-Goldbergs, but after Reno 911, who's married with 3 children and hates her life after and being married. While the wedding preparations continue, Annie's life is falling apart. Her business went bankrupt. She's kicked out of her apartment. She has a very obnoxious sex buddy who treats her badly. She sabotages her relationship with a nice guy played by Chris Dowd. And she hates her job at a jewelry store to the point where in one of the film's funniest scenes in the movie, literally calls a teenager a "see you next Tuesday." And it's just the way that she says it. It's so goddamn hilarious. And having worked in retail for the last 20 years... you have those days when you want to get that nasty, and yeah, you hold that in, but trust me, that's a hard thing to do, and I love how this movie just says, fuck it, we're going to do it anyway. But yeah, she hates her job at a jewelry store. Her car is broken. You know, she has this one taillight that she can't get fixed for some particular reason. Even her boyfriend, the cop, and it's just like, at one point he's just like, get your fucking taillight fixed already. And Helen's one-upsmanship in wedding preparations is resulting in her feeling very insecure. Can all these problems be solved, or will it ruin the wedding? What do you think is going to happen in a comedy like this? Just saying. But yeah, in this movie, this film did become a big hit at the box office. It was a massive critical success, to the point where it did get nominations for the Oscars the following year. Yeah, a comedy getting Oscar nominations, high up there in the Oscar nominations. Like we're talking about, you know, best original screenplay, and then best supporting actress for I keep saying Megan McCarthy, because that's her name in the movie. Melissa McCarthy. And like I said, Melissa McCarthy was on a roll around this time, because Mike and Molly had just premiered in what I think is probably Chuck Lorre's best overall show during that peak. I mean, I like The Big Bang Theory and 2.5 Men with Charlie Sheen in it, but Mike and Molly was probably the overall consistent good show throughout the course of its entire run. But yeah, this was around the time when she was becoming a more bigger deal than most people were expecting, and you know, this movie kind of elevated her star status to this, and also the next film that she would do with Paul Fahey, with The Heat. Even though I didn't like the Heat as much as everybody else did, but we'll save that for 2013. But with this film in particular, I actually have more kind of a mixed and positive reaction to the movie. It's almost reminiscent of something like Talladega Nights, which is a film that I didn't really like all that much. I would say this is better, but not by that much. But there are a lot of positives here. I think there are a lot of good laugh-out-loud moments in the first hour of the movie. I think that the airplane scene in particular is really funny. The 6 main female stars, I think, work off each other really well. And Melissa McCarthy does really break out of this movie, becoming the big thing about it that you remember from it, because a lot of her lines in here are legitimately funny. They are very well put together and very well done by this actress, and you can see why she got the Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actress. I would say that that's more reasonable than the original screenplay nomination, which feels really odd to say the least. But you know, I thought Chris O'Dowd overall was pretty good too, playing the cop and Wig's love interest. Wig and Rudolph, these are 2 really funny women who work off each other so well. It's no wonder why they're not going to make it. It's no wonder they can make this work as well as it does. John Hamm's really good too. He delivers a lot of good, hilarious lines, playing the douchebag of the movie. But on the negative side, it lacks in the middle as Kristen Wiig's character does hit rock bottom. Like I said, there are a few moments that are great, like especially that moment in the jewelry store with the teenager. It does pick up in the final act, but that lack in the middle following the airplane scene did actually leave me kind of bored in the long run. I also am not a fan of the gross-out jokes in the dress scene. It just felt like a scene that started off with something really funny until they just kind of like dragged it on and on and on. It was a scene that started, it was funny at first, and then they start showing them puking in the toilet and shitting in the sink and then shitting in the middle of the road, which, okay, admittedly the road thing was actually kind of funny because it wasn't like you actually see it, but like the other ones, like it's literally showing them puking and shitting in the sink, and it's just like, come on, man, like jokes like that shouldn't be seen or heard, but just to have the thought of it, like, it just really kind of bugged me. And there was a lot of scenes like that that really kind of bugged me in this movie, but I did like the film enough to say it's a good movie. It's not a great movie, but it's definitely a more enjoyable movie than I think you could say about another big comedy a big comedy movie that's coming out later in the month of May, which we'll get to in a couple of weeks, but I do like this movie. I don't think it's one of Judd Apatow's best movies with his name attached to it, but it's nowhere near as bad as something like Drobit Taylor, or even the mediocrity of Talladega Nights, but it's nowhere near the stuff like, you know, The 40-Year-Old Virgin, or Superbad, or Knocked Up, or Forgetting Sarah Marshall. It's just kind of in the middle. It's just kind of like, parts of it do kind of fall flat, but the majority of it does work. I like the chemistry between the 6 leads. I think the characters overall are very likable. The story works very well to the film's advantage. This is the movie that Bryce Ward's, I think, was trying to be like. I think it was trying to be more like this, and failed miserably at it. And this thing is funny. I don't think it's like a groundbreaker by any means necessary, but I like it. I think it's fun enough on its own merits. So yeah, overall, I do really enjoy the movie. So if you want another movie that's trying to be is a comedy, even though it has no real intentions on doing that, but when you see what happens on screen, it's really hilarious how bad it is. And that is, of course, Priest.
They come before you because this was a vampire attack. There is no vampire menace. It's alive. If you take any action, you will be stripped from the order. I have no choice. One of your own has broken his sacred vow. Bring him back. Dead or alive.
And what do you know, folks? Just as I said the previous week that studios were finally starting to realize that maybe post-production conversion 3D can actually be good, here's a movie that says, nah, we still want to pretend like we're gonna give you great 3D, but not really. So I get to use this little chestnut again. Welcome to another edition of post-production 3D hell. God, it feels good to get that back in there. I mean, but yeah, this movie, this is based off of a Korean comic of the same name, set in an alternate universe where humanity and vampires have warred for centuries. After the last vampire war, what the hell was that? After the last vampire war, I'll tell you what, God darn it. After the last vampire war, I don't know what's going on with me today, but a veteran warrior priest lives in obscurity until his niece, played by Lily Collins, is kidnapped by vampires. So yeah, remember Legion and how it got really stupid with its incredible, lazy attempts at supernatural thrills? This one does it again, except we want to throw in a little bit of underworld in there because we're Screen Gems, because we know how to make great horror movies that you will see the first weekend and then never think about again. Because yeah, it's another one of those movies that literally is one of those films where zero effort was put into it all over the place. It takes itself way too seriously. All these actors in here should know better. I mean, you've got Paul Bettany, Carl Urban, Maggie Q, Lily Collins, Christopher Plummer. You know, this is a movie that is just so lazy in every single shape and form. There is nothing about this movie that is intriguing. The story is terrible. The visuals are awful. The 3D is god-awful. Like, this is the definition of what happens when you have terrible post-production 3D conversions and you've never learned your lesson from what 2010 had to offer you. This is that type of a movie. This movie is unbelievably bad. Not as bad as Legion, surprisingly, but it's still pretty bad. And the fact that they literally put this out there thinking that they were going to trick people to come into this and buy this as a summer blockbuster, and people didn't take the bait. It came, it went. It wasn't the biggest hit at the box office, and yeah, it was largely forgotten almost immediately after it came out. So, yeah, not much more to say about this one, but yeah, take that for what you will. So that is Legion. So let's go ahead and get back to some good stuff. Let's take a look at our last movie, and that is Will Ferrell in Everything Must Go.
Decided to make a change. The rest of the higher-ups wanted you to have this.
I got fired from my job, and my wife left me.
I saw this coming a mile away.
Thanks for warning me. I'm selling all my stuff. Feels pretty good. You might want to come work for me. Saw a couple things.
What about these?
You're gonna want to hold on to those. How much have you had to drink?
In my opinion, not enough.
You're gonna have to come with me.
Everything Must Go. Rated R. Starts Friday.
Man, if you're getting fired by Dennis of all people, your life is pretty shitty. Like, that guy still has a job, but you don't. Yeah, this is a movie that is one of those Will Ferrell movies that nobody ever talks about. Very few people remember it. Let's be honest. When this movie came out, the only thing that people were really focusing on Will Ferrell with was not this movie, but what he was about to do to Conan on his TBS show.
Will Ferrell, and there's some aspects of the movie we haven't discussed.
Would you shut the up? Shave that beard, guys! Bring it out! Let's go!
How about you, Excalibur? Are you ready to serve me in this noble quest? What's that, Excalibur? I'm dragging this out too much?
Which is a great bit, by the way. I can't show the full thing in full, but go watch it. It's really funny. It's the whole thing where, you know, Will Ferrell had made this thing that he was coming on the show on May 2nd to shave off Conan's beard he had as soon as he got back on TBS. And, yeah, he shaved it off, and he went back to the Conan O'Brien that we're used to seeing him as. But sadly, that's what more people remember about this particular movie coming out, was the promotion for this film, rather than the actual movie itself. Which, that bit is funny, but this movie is great, too. I think this is definitely another one of Will Ferrell's underrated gems. He plays a guy who, as I said before, gets fired from his sales job, mostly because of his penchant for alcohol. He comes home and finds that his wife has kicked him out, and all of his stuff is also out of the house as well and onto the front lawn. He's pretty intent on just sitting in his chair drinking beer on the lawn, and his cop friend, Frank Garcia, thinks he should at least pretend to have a yard sale to make it legal. He slowly starts making friends with a neighborhood kid who needs something to do, and a pregnant wife who had just moved in across the street, and Nick finds himself moving on and selling all of his stuff. So it's a very heartfelt movie. This is based off of a story by Raymond Carver called Why Don't You Dance? I had never even heard of this story before, but you know, most people have said that this thing is not on the same level as that, but really it doesn't really matter because the film itself overall does work on its own merits. You don't really need to read the short story to really get the full enjoyment of this film. And this is a really solid film with an excellent cast all across the board. Ferrell, I think, is fantastic. You know, Rebecca Hall's really good. Michael Pena, Glenn Howerton, Stephen Root, Laura Dern. Just a lot of good people in this movie, and it is a film that reminds me of these other Will Ferrell movies that nobody really ever talks about, unfortunately, like Winter Passage or Melinda and Melinda, or Stranger Than Fiction, these movies where, you know, Will Ferrell's trying to break out from that big comedy thing that he's more known for with, you know, Talladega Nights and Anchorman. And here's a movie where he's really doing everything he can to do something incredible and stand out on his own merits. And he does an incredible job of making it work. He's fantastic in the movie. This is a very good, lighthearted, warm-hearted comedy. And it does its job very well. Everybody in here plays their parts very well. It has a good message to teach you about the situation that he's in. You know, it's a really good, entertaining film. It's a film that sadly did not get the attention it deserved, but it really deserved a much more enjoyable, a much more appreciative outing, is what I'm trying to say, from most people, because it is a really good movie. It's a very well done film. Sadly, it does not get talked about much, but it is a film that I do say, go see this, because it shows how good Will Ferrell can be as a leading actor in a movie that's not a big budget, big spectacle comedy where he's going gonzo crazy. He's playing a straightforward performance in here, and it just works very well to a T. It just is such a very good performance overall. I like it a lot. I really do enjoy this movie a lot. I highly recommend you go out and check out Everything Must Go. definitely worth a watch, easily.
Jack, have you ever seen with your own eyes the fountain of youth?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
We know you're in possession of a map. You could guide an expedition.
I could use a ship. What has become of my beloved Pearl?
Taken.
Blackbeard. The Regan have come to life. Our own ship turned against us.
Captain, I wish to report a mutiny. I can name fingers and point names.
Perfect. The fountain, is that where Blackbeard is?
It is not the destination so much as the journey.
The fountain of youth. What does it require?
A mermaid, Jack.
All hands on deck! We've fallen behind. We need one mermaid.
You're killing her. I am a bad man.
Again! Fight to the bitter end!
Hardly appropriate for a first mate.
Was I the first?
It has begun.
We're part of the plan, yes? No. Have you been there?
Does his face look like it's been at the fountain of youth?
Depends on the line.
And welcome to Time About the Movies. Today we are taking a look at the two films released on May 20th, 2011, and we start off with the biggest of the two, and that is the fourth installment of the Pirates of the Caribbean series, On Stranger Tides. Now, this one in particular is notable because it's based off originally of a book by Tim Powers called On Stranger Tides, and it's actually a standalone sequel to the previous installments, and a lot of the characters from those movies are not back in this one. You don't have Orlando Bloom, you don't have Keira Knightley, but you do get Jack Sparrow, who's joined by Angelica, played by Penelope Cruz, in the search for the Fountain of Youth, confronting the infamous pirate Blackbeard, played by Ian McShane. And like I said before, man, I mean, when it comes to the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, Jack Sparrow is the best part of these movies, at least in the original trilogy he was. So you got him. You also got Penelope Cruz, you got Ian McShane, and Rob Marshall, who has directed great movies like Chicago, Memoirs of a Geisha, 9. I mean, you have these things that should come together so well. How can you possibly fail in this way, shape, or form? Well, it doesn't help when the script overall isn't doing the best they can. Even if, no, it's got the same writing team as the other movies, Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio, it still doesn't come together well in the end. It really was a major disappointment. And let's start off with the biggest problems of it. For one thing, nobody's really giving anything to do except to just be cardboard cutout characters that these type of films have given us. And the script overall is generic, it's mediocre, and the biggest sin of all, I don't think Rob Marshall was just simply cut out to direct a movie like this. I mean, he can work well with musicals, and even something as epic like Memoirs of a Geisha. Hell, we just saw it not too long ago, a couple years ago, with his version of The Little Mermaid, which I think is actually one of the better Disney live-action remakes. So the guy is not a hack filmmaker, and I guess he did later prove that he could handle not only a great musical, but a big-budget musical like that. So you think a big-budget movie like this he could work his way around with, but here, it's something about this doesn't feel like, shouldn't be this difficult to direct here, and, you know, they took Johnny Depp's Jack Sparrow character, the best character from the previous movies, and when you put the focus on him the whole time, he becomes one of the most annoying and most detestable characters I've seen in the movie in a long time. Like, this guy just gets on your nerves so goddamn quickly. And I guess that's what seems to happen when we see these characters in other movies. Just like, wow, I want to see more of this guy. This guy's amazing. And then, okay, here's his movie. And then the writer's just like, let's make him the most obnoxious character ever so people won't ask us to make another movie based on him. And sadly, that's what we get here. And it's a bummer. It's a bummer of a movie on so many ways, but there are positives to it. One, the action still looks pretty impressive. You know, Rob Marshall does a very good job of directing the action sequences in here. It's at least shorter than the last two movies. It isn't like one of these big, grand epics that the last two films were. But if those are the only two positives I have for a movie like this, directed by a director of an Academy Award-winning Best Picture film, we've got a problem here. We've got a major, major problem. And yeah, On Stranger Tides had the chance to turn the series around after two really lackluster sequels, but they couldn't even fix that. It's another sequel that has so much potential, and it never gives us that excitement level that the first movie had. And what you get, unfortunately, is a typical mediocre pirate sequel. And it was, it did still become a hit overall, but it still was not a big hit compared to the other two movies that had come before that, the two sequels. And the end result is a film that should have been so much better than it actually was, with the talent on board, and it just didn't come together in the end, sadly. So, hey, they'll try again 6 years later with the guys who did Kon-Tiki, and maybe they'll fix it around. Or maybe they may just go back to the regurgitated garbage they had beforehand. Will they? We'll find out in 2017 when the next film, Dead Men Tell No Tales, comes out. So, yeah. That's Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides. A major disappointment. But you know what wasn't a major disappointment? Our last movie. Because not only did I really enjoy this movie, not only was it my favorite movie of the year, it's one of my favorite movies of all time. I'm, of course, talking about Woody Allen's Midnight in Paris.
Why are you so dressed up?
I was just doing a little writing.
You dress up and put on cologne to write?
Because you know how I think better in the shower and I get the positive ions going in there?
I had a private detective follow him. And what happened? I don't know. The detective agency says the detective is missing.
I love the hell out of this movie. This is a movie that's both a love letter to the way movies used to be in the 60s and 70s, and a love letter to the great literary works of the past as well. It's a movie that explores the themes of both nostalgia and modernism, something that I think most of us can really relate to. The story is simply that you have Gil and Inez, played by Owen Wilson and Rachel McAdams, who travel to Paris as a tag-along vacation on her parents' business trip. Gil is a successful Hollywood writer, but is struggling on his first novel. He falls in love with the city and thinks they should move there after they get married. But Inez does not share his romantic notions of the city, of the idea that the 1920s was the golden age. And while Inez goes out dancing with her friends, one of them played by Loki, of all people, Tom Hiddleston, Gil takes a walk at midnight and discovers what could be the ultimate source of inspiration for writing. Somehow being transported back to the 1920s, where some of the decade's most well-known figures exist, including F. Scott Fitzgerald, Ernest Hemingway, Josephine Baker, Cole Porter, and many others. Gil's daily walks at midnight in Paris could take him closer to the heart of the city, but further from the woman he is about to marry. And this is a movie that, like I said, everyone I think can relate to. We're all nostalgic for something that we loved in the past, and we all have our problems with the modernized world that we're living in, especially nowadays with the way that the world is. We become a society that's become more obsessed with what celebrities are doing that aren't really all that special, and focusing our time on not just those celebrities who shouldn't be celebrities, but clout chasers, people that are just being nuisances for the sake of being for the sake of popularity. We just saw it this past year with a Minecraft movie where people were just going to the movie theater for a stupid meme and ruining everybody's experience of how it is to go into a theater. Now more than ever, I think a movie like this is more relevant than ever before. This is a film that we can all look at and easily see ourselves in the same situation that we find Owen Wilson in, or even Rachel McAdams' character. Two different generations who, one loves the nostalgic period of the past, and one just wants to move ahead with the future. We can be nostalgic about many things, but the rest of the world doesn't want to acknowledge the way things used to be, and just wants to be focusing on what's popular now. And Owen Wilson's Gil character perfectly captures every one of us who likes nostalgia and how much our passion for it can sometimes make us want to go back to that time and experience it for ourselves. And while his fiancée shares the opposing end of the spectrum, focusing on the world now, it leads into the question of who's right and who's wrong in the situation. In a way, they're kind of both right. But we feel more for Gil than Inez in the way the movie plays it out, because Gil just wants a simpler life, but Inez wants the high life and to live like royalty. And with this, I think Woody Allen delivers his strongest film ever. This is a film that just is the perfect encapsulation of everything that Woody Allen does so well. And Owen Wilson gives one of his strongest performances. Rachel McAdams is usually going to be great in here. You've got a strong cast of people in here, like Corey Stoll as Ernest Hemingway, Tom Hiddleston, who I thought was playing one of the people that Inez goes out to dance with, but I don't think but he's playing F. Scott Fitzgerald. I can't remember if he does too. It's been a while since I've seen the film, but Kathy Bates as Gertrude Stein, Adrian Brody as Salvador Dali. A part of the reason I love this movie so much is because we never find out how this character is going through this journey. Like, why is he going back in time, and everyone else around him isn't, except for one person, which that line from the trailer about the detective is a line that, like, I love the fact that that Kurt Fuller basically says, we hired a detective, but he disappeared last night. Where did he go? The way it's set up in the movie is so damn good. And I'm not going to spoil it for you, because you got to see it for yourself, but it reminds me a lot of Groundhog Day, where we never get an explanation of why Bill Murray keeps explaining the same day. It keeps seeing the same day over and over again. But the way the movie plays out, we really don't need to know how it's happening. Like, why is he repeating the same day over and over again? We don't need to know. We just know that he's going to be a better person by learning from his mistakes. And here, we feel the exact same way. We don't know why Owen Wilson's character is experiencing this situation and nobody else is, except for the detective. But we're so invested in it that we don't care. We just want to see him go through this adventure. And we want to go through that adventure, too. You have no idea how much I want to see Paris in my lifetime. Once in my life. Like, there's several places I'd like to visit in my lifetime before I die. New York City's one. Los Angeles is one. Paris is definitely high up there. I'm trying to think of some other ones too, but there probably is. I just can't think of them right now. But yeah, Paris is definitely in the top 3 places I would love to go and see one day. And I think the music in the beginning too really does set the mood for what you're about to watch. The first 5 minutes alone, where it's just music playing over these static shots of Paris, like, you get hooked in right away. You're still invested in what's going on, despite no dialogue, no characters whatsoever. It's just this great music and this great scenery from the city. And I just love the way it's played out. I just love the way this entire movie comes together. And after a really, really rotten year for movies that we've had so far in 2011, this was definitely the highlight of the year. And this film, nothing could ever top what Midnight in Paris was able to do in 2011. I love this movie. It works on so many levels. It's got a great heart to it, characters we can relate to, a great story, great music, a beautiful, beautiful film that just has a lot of heart to it. It proves that nostalgia can be a great thing no matter what anybody tells you. What more can I say, man? Midnight in Paris, a towering achievement. A towering achievement.
Stu would like to invite you to his wedding.
Well, only if you're not busy.
Stu, well, maybe the Jonas Brothers are in town.
No, they're Raleigh-Durham that weekend.
You can't just skip out of the bachelor party, Stu.
You see that? That's orange juice with a napkin on top. So nobody roofies me. What is going on? Who got shot? Am I going to be okay here, doctor?
The Hangover, Part 2, rated R, starts May 26th.
Gee, this looks all so familiar. Welcome to Time About the Movies, everybody, and today we are taking a look at the 3 films of May 26, 2011, and we begin, of course, with the biggest new release of the weekend, and that is the much-anticipated The Hangover Part 2. It's now 2 years after the infamous bachelor party in Las Vegas, and Phil, Bradley Cooper, Stu, Ed Helms, Alan, Zach Galifianakis, and Doug, Justin Bartha, jet to Thailand for Stu's wedding. Stu's plan for a subdued pre-wedding brunch, however, goes seriously awry, which leads to the Wolfpack in Bangkok. And yeah, let's just get the elephant out of the room right away. You know how almost all comedy sequels, for the most part, for a long period of time, were just retreads of the previous movie and didn't even try to do anything new or unique with it? Instead of just taking them back to a new location, dumbing them back down to where they were at the beginning of the first movie. Yeah. Prime example of that right here. Literally every single thing that happened in the first movie is repeated here, except with some differences, except the fact that it's not longer in Las Vegas, it's in Thailand, and it's not just Doug going away is getting missing from the group. It's now the brother of one of the two is of Stu's new wife, and because now in Bangkok anything can happen now, and just like in the first movie, the old saying, what happened in Vegas stays in Vegas. Well, now we can't say that in this movie, but Yeah, literally everything that happens in the first film is in this movie again. And to its credit, it's not bad, but when you say you're going to do a sequel to one of the biggest comedy hits of all time, I would like to think that you would try at least to do something different with it instead of just rehashing the same goddamn movie. I mean, Home Alone 2 is very much the same movie as the first film, except this time it's not just in his home, he's now in New York City. It's literally the same plot. The people who made the movie even knew it was literally the same film, but you know what? They still put effort into it. There's still more stuff in there that I enjoyed about that movie that I still like from the first movie. I mean, yeah, it's a been there, done that sequel, but it's a been there, done that sequel done the right way. This is literally just taking the first movie, taking out all the elements from Las Vegas, and putting it into Thailand, and having bigger names attached to it. Because, of course, in the original movie, you had, was Paul Giamatti was in the first one, if I'm not mistaken, right? You're going to see me doing my research right now, because I could have sworn that was him in there. I know this is all dead air and all that, but I could have sworn he was in the first one. Maybe he was in the second one. Yeah, he is in the second one. I couldn't remember, because I thought in the first one they had he was in there as kind of the similar character that he is in this movie here. He's basically playing a guy who's an undercover Interpol agent who screws around with him pretty much, basically, because they think that they know where these people that are kidnapped are at. And it's interesting because there's so many things in this particular movie that just, they up the ante on it. You know, we have to have Mike Tyson back because he was one of the big breakout things in the last movie. You know, we gotta have Ken Jeong back in here for no particular reason, just because he was such a fan favorite character. And here's the one that I thought was actually kind of interesting here, is that, you know, Nick Cassavetes plays this Bangkok tattoo artist, and they had several people originally intended to be in that role, like Liam Neeson was initially cast in that role. And, you know, this was just him coming off of the first Taken movie. And then originally they were envisioning Mel Gibson. Bill Clinton almost had a role in this movie, and they cut it out of the film. Like, they were adding some big names to this movie, and you could just tell that, yeah, they were just going strictly for the bigger, you know, going big or go home, instead of actually working on a script that actually merits making this sequel possible. And it just doesn't work overall. There's still some funny moments in the film, even though they are basically just retreads of the first film. I mean, the gross-out jokes can be funny at times, but Jackass at least has a masterful craft when it comes to their gross-out humor, where you're laughing so hard that you're falling out of your seat, or even makes you want to legitimately puke. And in this case, it's definitely not that movie. I guess to its credit, it's better than Todd Phillips' last movie, Due Date, which was a terrible retread of Plane, Trains, and Automobiles. But even with this, like, it's just not as fun as the original film. It's not as bad as you would think it would be, but it's just not as good as it could have been either. It's just literally a film. They took the first movie, took out all the Vegas aspects, put it in Bangkok, literally did nothing different with the original script, right down to where the people they find eventually end up. Like, it's literally a retread of the previous film. And trust me when I tell you this, be grateful for this one, because the third film tries to do something different with it. And yeah, and not only that, like, they try to do something different with it, but they take it to an extreme level of ridiculousness. The Hangover Part 3 is easily the worst one of this series. I mean, Part 2 is not that great compared to the first movie, but it beats the crap out of Part 3. Wait until we get to Part 3, because holy mother of God, that movie is terrible. And that will come out 2 years from now, because of course it's going to do that. But we'll talk about that when we get across that pathway to 2013. But as it is, The Hangover Part 2, not a bad movie, but certainly not as good as it could have been. It's just basically a retread of the first film. It's not that great, so. But most people went to go see that movie. They made it a massive hit. And meanwhile, the next movie, which was the far superior sequel, got pushed off to the side. And people immediately regretted that decision when they finally got a chance to see Kung Fu Panda 2.
The following stunts were performed by professionals. Sort of.
It is on.
Do not attempt any of what you are about to see.
It's all about this.
Feel. or taste.
Thanks for carrying me. I threw up a little bit on the 3rd floor.
So sad.
Did I spit a little bit?
Should we tell him he's on fire? DreamWorks Kung Fu Panda 2, rated PG.
Though, to be perfectly honest, that marketing campaign probably didn't sell the film, help to sell the film in general, and the film underperformed. I mean, it didn't do bad business overall. It still made its money back, especially with worldwide audiences. But considering that you had a movie that is a sequel to a very popular film, they were expecting something on the levels of Shrek 2, and unfortunately, the box office wasn't as strong as it could have been. But at least it was good enough to get 2 more sequels out of it. We still got Kung Fu Panda 3, we still got Kung Fu Panda 4, and honestly, we should be grateful for that, because Kung Fu Panda 2 not only is a great animated DreamWorks sequel, it's probably one of my favorite sequels of all time. And, I mean, you can see why when you see the film itself. In the sequel, you have Po back as voiced by Jack Black, who joined forces with the Furious Five and a group of new Kung Fu masters to take on an old enemy, a peacock voiced by Gary Oldman with a deadly new weapon that could mean the end of Kung Fu. And this is a year where, like I said, there was not a lot of great films overall, but, you know, for every you know, have all these really bad films, but then you get something like a Rango, or a Source Code, or a Limitless, or a Midnight in Paris, or, you know, and this film in particular definitely is one of those films that's very high up on the best movies of the year, and it really is a damn good movie that's somehow even better than the original film. And like I said, this is a movie that takes the story elements from the previous film and doesn't just do a retread of the first film. This is the film that The Hangover 2 should have been. They up the ante, they give you more of a backstory, not just on Po, but also on other people as well. Like, you see a friendship beginning to form with Po and Tigress that does continue on into the 3rd movie, and I like that. I like that camaraderie between them, like they're kind of brother and sister, and it's not like a romantic relationship or anything like that, and I like the fact that they did that way. And it allowed I like that they expanded the characters in here. They gave these characters depth. We got a big backstory about Poe's family and how he essentially came into the custody of his foster parent. What is he? He's voiced by it's not a peacock either, is he? No, it can't be. Peking duck. Chinese goose. I was close. Chinese goose. But you see what happened that led him to basically adopt Po, and it does. And even the movie ends with a teaser for what the 3rd film would eventually become: Po meeting his birth family. And I really like the way they elevate the story here. Everything about this movie really does keep building and building, and it never feels like it's stepping over its boundaries too much. It keeps the spirit of the original film, but at the same time, it does try to do something new with it. I like the way they talk about how Po became the son of a goose noodle maker and how they explain what happened to his parents, as I said before. It's nice to see these characters back on screen again and seeing that they can get some good emotional impacts too. And, you know, when I first saw the movie, I thought the main villain, Lord Chang, was kind of a little too over the top. I mean, Tai Lung I thought was a badass villain in the first film, but watching the movie again since then, I've come to realize that Lord Chang in the movie is probably a much more badass antagonist than Tai Lung. Even though Tai Lung was really great in the first film, you know, Gary Oldman just makes that performance work so well. He's threatening, he's menacing, but he can also have some really good funny lines throughout the course of the film. I mean, he's the perfect type of villain for this movie. And, you know, it is a film that legitimately does get an emotional impact out of you, especially when you see Poe's backstory and all that. It also has a nice mix of, you know, the CG animation from DreamWorks and also 2D animation blended in there nicely, especially with his origin story, Poe's origin story, and I think it's done very well. The climax is fantastic. You know, you not only have all the Furious Five and all these new Kung Fu masters coming together to take down the villain, but the way Poe defeats the villain, I mean, it's a moment, it's one of the best animated moments I've ever seen. Like, Poe, you know, taking all these things of the weapon that the villain is using and using it against him. It's just such a really cool, fun climax and just some gorgeous animation in this. I mean, this is one of the best sequels I've ever seen. I mean, this is the movie that should have done a hell of a lot better than the big sequel that made more money in The Hangover 2. But this movie definitely is the far superior sequel, easily. what more do I gotta say, man? Kung Fu Panda 2 is a winner on so many levels. It's definitely one of DreamWorks' best sequels. One of DreamWorks' best franchises overall. All four of these movies are really good. Even the fourth one, which is not as strong as the previous three films, but I like to think of it as the Toy Story 4 of the series. Not as good as the previous films, but still more than worthy enough to say that it's definitely worth it to see it. I still like the fourth one a lot. And Kung Fu Panda 2 definitely is probably my favorite one of the entire series, easily. This is the one I can go back to so many times, and I never get tired of it. It's a great sequel, one of the best animated sequels ever, one of the best animated films I've ever seen. Kung Fu Panda 2, what more can I say? Excellent, excellent stuff. So, with all that said, let's go ahead and move on to... I was about to wrap the show up, and then I forgot I had one more movie to look at. Let's wrap it up by taking a look at Terrence Malick's latest film with Brad Pitt and Jessica Chastain, and that is, of course, The Tree of Life.
Roger Ebert says Terrence Malick's The Tree of Life has the bold vision of Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey.
You would be good before that tree is tall.
It evokes the wonderment of life's experience.
Expect things that only an adult can accomplish.
Take it. Come on, son.
Brad Pitt gives a performance of indelible, explosive power.
I just always wanted you to be strong. Be your own man.
The Tree of Life, PG-13.
Ah, yes, the good old days of downloading a movie on iTunes. God, it feels like 2011 was so a long time ago, and there's only 14 years. I mean, it doesn't feel like it should be that long ago, but Jesus Christ. But The Tree of Life. This is Terrence Malick in his first film since The Thin Red Line in 1998, and it chronicles the origins and meaning of life by way of a middle-aged man's childhood memories of his family living in 1950s Texas, interspersed with imagery of the origins of the universe and the inception of life on Earth. And, you know, Terrence Malick, his movies are very... actually, I lied to you, because this is not the first film he did since The Thin Red Line. I forgot about The New World, which wasn't bad, but wasn't great either. But certainly this movie is probably the last great thing he directed, because every film after that got more and more pretentious, got more and more, you know, stuck up, is made for the stuck-up critics and all that, just like, oh, you charlatans, you just don't get the beauty of Terrence Malick's work, and no, those movies are extremely pretentious and really stupid, but this I feel like is one of those last great films he made, because this is a film that, it does take time for you to really realize what this movie really is about, and what the movie really is trying to show you, and it's Terrence Malick not dumbing himself down to his audience like he would do later on. Brad Pitt, Jessica Chastain, and Ty Sheridan all give some very solid performances in here. Sean Penn is really good in the movie, too. The visual look of the movie is impressive, and you do get invested in the story overall. You can see why this movie had such a lasting impact, to the point where it did get 3 Oscar nominations for Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Cinematography, and some people have called it one of the best films of the decade so far, is of the 21st century so far. It's a really solid movie. It's a movie that is intriguing and entertaining to look at, and it doesn't feel like it's dumbing you down or making you seem like you're stupid for not understanding what's going on here. It's a very good film. It's a very good, well-made film. Definitely the last great thing Terrence Malick, I think, has ever directed, because the rest of his movies that came after this are just schlocky, pretentious junk that we're going to get to, especially in the next year with his first film, To the Wonder. But hey, at least he gave us a good one with The Tree of Life, so you gotta give him credit for that.